listening to Planet Vero Radio. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show, where we talk about medical issues and harmed patients and those kind of things. We are broadcast on iHeartMedia and also podcast on Spreaker. I've got my co-host Jeannie Roller on Skype with me from Indiana. Today we're talking about some books that I came across, and I asked Jeannie to pipe in about this too. Books I came across that are talking about patient harm. And they're talking about that this stuff does go on. And the books, a lot of them were written by doctors. So I've got 5 of them here in front of me. I'm just going to go through them real quick and give a couple of topics and stuff that they talk about. But it makes people that are harmed feel like, we're not the Lone Ranger here, that this really does happen. We don't want it to happen to anyone, but we read over and over that it does. And just to see it in print just kind of makes me feel a little bit better. What about you, Jeannie Roller?
Well, it does and it doesn't, because there's people talking about harm, but there are more people denying that it happens.
That's so true. And that's what we talk about on this podcast. It is so true. So I'm going to start with the first book. It is written by John Leifer, Leifer, if I'm pronouncing that the correct way. It's called The Myths of Modern Medicine, The Alarming Truth About American Healthcare. And he's got one chapter in here, and I'm not laughing at it. It's just kind of sad that it says, it's time to step up to the plate. The need for physician-defined standards of competency and reporting requirements. So if these doctors are saying this, it's like not ha-ha funny, but when is something going to get done about it? It's just insanity. The things that we know that happen in the medical world. And he's got chapter after chapter is there's no better place to be when you are ill than the hospital. Is that truth? And he's got it as a myth. So different things like that he talks about. Very interesting. Another book is called The Truth About Big Medicine. And it's edited by Cheryl L. Brown and John T. James, Righting the Wrongs for Better Health Care. And one of the statements in here says that there are literally what they call apology laws, and they're valid in 38 states. But like and I know, Jeannie Roller, yes, I got an apology from the Orlando hospital that I went to, and they said, well, we're sorry. And then there was a little bit of a hesitation, and they said, but we really didn't do anything that you're claiming to you, because we just don't treat patients like that. And I think your instance is kind of the same way.
Yeah, it was if we harmed you, we are sorry. There was no if about it.
Right. So the apology laws, I get what they're talking about, and it is good that people are trying to do these things. Also good, in my opinion, that people are speaking out. And one of the chapters in this book is called The Failure of State Medical Boards to Protect the Public. And that chapter is written by Yanling Yu, a PhD doctor. So, these are credible people that are saying this stuff is happening. Like I said, a lot of them, the chapters in here are written by doctors. Gerald Rogan, MD, John T. James, PhD. It goes on and on. Cheryl Brown is an RN, and she talks about the harm that happened to her when she was having her baby. So the medical people aren't immune to having the same harm done to them as just like regular patients. They are regular patients when they go in there. What Doctors Cannot Tell You by Kevin B. James, a medical doctor. Clarity, confidence, and uncertainty in medicine. It's incredible. Here's another doctor speaking out, going, even as doctors, we know this stuff is going on. And they find the same exasperation trying to bring justice to some of this stuff. Unaccountable is written by Dr. Marty Makary, and he's pretty well known, like you said, Jeannie Roller, talking about some of this COVID stuff. And he's at Johns Hopkins, and he talks about some of the care at Johns Hopkins and other well-known hospitals and what really they see happening, and also that their hands are tied trying to get things done about it. I've just found some of it fascinating reading, like I said, because it's just crazy. So his book is Unaccountable, What Hospitals Won't Tell You and How Transparency Can Revolutionize Healthcare. There's a big word that we don't use often, but is transparency, right?
Oh, yeah, that's their hated word, transparency.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's just incredible. And the last book that I have sitting here next to me is called Apropos: Closing Death's Door: Legal Innovations to End the Epidemic of Healthcare Harm, written by Michael J. Sachs and Stephen Landsman. And that's what it's talking about, different chapters in that. The problem of iatrogenic injury, which we did a podcast about, and that's exactly what patient harm is iatrogenic injury. And it deals with, it's not supposed to be harm, but it is. It winds up being that way. It's crazy. It's just crazy, some of the stuff. So what do you have, Jeannie? What have you been reading?
Well, I found a website, modernhealthcare.com. It is a website of health providers, and it's called No One is Free from Harm. Industry experts share personal stories that suggest the U.S. has a long way to go on quality and safety in healthcare. It's different healthcare providers telling either of harm that they have seen or harm that they have personally experienced through themselves or a family member. So, I mean, yeah, they know it's happening, but the majority of healthcare denies it happened. So these people are really outliers in saying that it's happening. No one wants to believe them. Even the public doesn't want to believe it happens.
Well, that's true, because I get a lot of looks going, what exactly are you talking about? I mean, what is this podcast about? And I'm like, well, you know what? I don't want to say wait till it happens to you, because I don't want it to happen to someone else. I really don't. But then when it does happen to someone, they're like, oh, no, now I wish I would have listened to some of the stuff that you said, and I would have asked different questions. I would have taken heed of what, going to another place, going to a different doctor, and would have had some kind of context of what you're actually talking about, because before that I had no clue. I was just naive, which is how we started.
Right. Yeah. There's another ProPublica has been doing a lot of articles about patient harm. One article is called The Voices of Patient Harm, where they talk about more than 1 million patients each year suffer harm in the U.S. That's just in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And probably with COVID, it is now higher.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would definitely think so, because so many more people in the system that, were jammed in there when they, they wouldn't ordinarily have been in there.
Well, yes, and there were no families allowed in there to help them, which is another thing. I've read articles by physicians saying that they would never, ever, ever allow any family member to be alone in a hospital for any reason.
Just about anyone that I've talked with always has said that same thing, too. You need somebody there as your gatekeeper, as your witness.
But yet we can't be with them the whole time.
Right.
Like pre-op, post-op.
Right.
And even when they bring the patient to the room, they want us gone.
Right.
They don't want any witnesses.
Right. And that's so true. And that's what we talk about, and that's what we fight against. We're trying to figure out what's the best way to have witnesses in the OR. You and I talk about that all the time, and we'll do a podcast about that. Speaking of podcast and people that talk with us, so we call this the Patient Partners Show, because we have people that do partner with us, hence the name, that are out there on the front lines like we are, trying to give information, trying to give a better way to have more decent, respectful care. One of those people is a lady named Robert Leonard, and her website is about the Dignity Resource Council. Her website address is dignityrc.org. And she deals mainly with the elderly population, nursing home patients, things like that. I almost said victims, which, is true too. And also garments and stuff that are respectfully designed for bathing the elderly population and things like that. And her contact phone number is 844-678-4698. And she'll be happy to talk with you. Robin's been doing it for a very long time, very decent lady. And Misty Roberts is another one of our patient partners. We mention her often. She's at patientmodesty.org. Great lady, too. Jeannie, we talk about this every week. And one of these days we're going to get to the head of it and figure out what's going to go on and how we're going to get some better care for everyone. So until then, you've been listening to another segment of Patient Partners on Planet Vero Radio. Please stay tuned.